You know, it's not every day a phone changes the way you think of mobile devices. It's actually why I don't bother with smartphones too much on this channel, because they're boring. They're just boring, okay? But not this one. This is the Samsung Galaxy Fold 4. But I know I'm a little late to the party, so instead of telling you about the tech specs and what it can and cannot do, I'm going to show you. Because today, I am going to attempt to shoot, edit, and publish an entire YouTube video using just my Samsung Galaxy Fold 4. And I'm going to make the thumbnail. And if all that works out, I'm going to push things one step further. But I'm getting ahead of myself because the first thing we need to do is script the video. Now, you could do this on any phone, ideally a laptop, but on a nice day like this, if you're stepping outside and if you've got all the screen real estate you could really need, and that's just a bonus, isn't it? There's a few ways to do this. You could use the Notepad app, you could use Microsoft Word, all of that works on all devices, but this extra real estate really makes it about the size of a pocketbook. That's really quite nice. Now, you could just type, or you could use your finger, and handwriting recognition works, but the way I like to do it is with the S Pen, which unfortunately you have to buy separately, doesn't come with the device, but props where props are due, handwriting recognition works a treat, which is particularly fascinating given my unique handwriting. So even if I were to scribble some garbage like, oh, I don't know, that, it knows exactly what I'm trying to tell you. But where it really comes in clutch, this real estate, is when you're trying to do research. If you need to take notes while you're, say, looking at a website, then all you've got to do is pull that website up to the same screen, and boom, you've got the website on top, you've got your notes down below, done. You could even add another little window down here. You can have multiple windows on for all the research that you could possibly want. And that is phenomenal, something I've never been able to do in any other phone. Now, if you'll excuse me, I've got a script to write. Okay, now for video, we've got a few options at our disposal actually, one of which is just to go into video mode and hit record. But if you want a little more control or a little more professionalism, you've got something called portrait video. Actually, you've got a whole bunch of options. One of them is portrait video, which is basically cinematic video. It introduces a little background blur. That's an option. Or if you want to lock things down, you could use pro video, which is an option that allows you to change things like aperture setting, ISO setting, frame rate, literally anything you could do on a pro camera, almost anything you could do on this, including, and this is pretty important, choose your audio source. You can have it take audio from your Bluetooth device, which is what I'll be doing today. I'll be using the Galaxy Buds 2 Pro, but only because I don't have a USB-C microphone, which is also an option. Or weirdly, it has an option to mix the two. I'm not sure how that works, but what's really intriguing is in the menu system, there's also the option to use the internal microphones, but, and this is the interesting part, you can choose to focus just on the audio that's coming from in front of the device or behind the device, or just take audio from all around, which I think is particularly interesting for a vlog type scenario. Okay, seriously though, the camera and the app, well, there's enough there to make an entirely different video just on that. If you want me to make that video, then tell me, or better yet, just subscribe. I'm kind of hoping you do, because this thing has me quite excited. Back to the task at hand. We just finished recording. It was an 8-minute video, which means I have my work cut out for me. Okay, it's a few hours later, but we're back on track. Got a little distracted there. I've got my Z Fold 4, I've got my monitor, and I'm gonna be hooking these two up. Now, the way this works is basically, if your monitor supports DisplayPort over USB-C, you can hook it up to the Samsung Galaxy, and theoretically, it should turn on Samsung DEX automatically and give you this desktop experience. That's the theory. We'll have to see if this actually works. I'm gonna hook up the little phone, make sure, I don't know if you have to have the phone unlocked. Oh wow, that was instantaneous. Now, before I get ahead of myself, one of the advantages of connecting it over USB-C is that it actually charges via the cable. So obviously cell phones are not known for lasting very long, and if you're doing desktop like work, oh, now it's charging. So infinite desktop, or should I say infinite desktop? I should stop right now. I'll do that. First off, I want to say that this is an incredible desktop experience. You've got effectively your start bar here with all your apps. Then you can exit DeX, you can lock your PC, everything there. That's the multitasking window. That is awesome. That's everything that's running in the background. You have your connectivity options. You've got your file browser right here. And look, you can even move windows around, and you can just latch it onto one side, and then you can open, let's say, the settings window and latch it onto the other side, and boom, you've got your multitasking setup. This is a workstation. This is it. That was that simple. Now you can do a couple of other things. You can connect both the mouse and the keyboard via Bluetooth directly to the phone if you want, or, and here's the cool thing, if you don't have a mouse, if you swipe down on the menu and if you click on this little notification that automatically comes up every time you start DEX, you can use your phone as a touchpad. So I click on that, boom, files, double click that, everything's happening. I'm just controlling the mouse cursor this. So you put this on the right side of your keyboard or the left depending on your dominant hand, and you don't even need a mouse. You just need a keyboard. You got the touchpad on this and you've got the monitor. And if you don't have a keyboard too, you can use this as a keyboard as well. So I mean, really, the thought of everything, this does seem like a very self-sufficient solution. The question then is it good enough to actually do what we wanted to do? Edit an entire video. So for this, I've decided to use Filmora because I've heard good things. Let's just start bar here. Let's say FIL, boom, just like that. I didn't even have to know how to do this. I just did the same stuff I would do on my desktop. That is pretty damn good. Now, already I'm seeing a problem here. You see, Filmora is not rendering properly. This was not made for the DEX experience. A lot of your apps are not necessarily going to scale well. What happens if I minimize it? Oh, this looks much more natural. That's fascinating. So if you shrink the windows down to something that sort of more resembles what you would have on your phone, it seems to render a lot better. But Filmora doesn't scale quite right. Still, we'll try and make do. It's already asking me if I enjoy Filmora. Calm down already. I haven't even used it. Okay, so I've been editing for a while and I wanted to import audio clips, and that's when I realized there's a bit of an issue. It's not rendering the app properly here, so I'm not able to import certain things onto the timeline, but I've worked around that. So what's happening is I'm running DEX here, but the phone is actually running its own normal Android software over here as well. So it's like there's two systems running off of one phone. And what that means, if I start Filmora on my phone right now, it asks me if I want to restart Filmora. I say yes, it closes it there, opens it here, and here it renders just fine. So if I add that audio clip onto my timeline here and then go back and restart Filmora back here again, what happens is it seems to pick up exactly where it left off. I know it's not perfect, it's definitely a jank workaround, but the fact that it picks up where it's left off made it slightly better. That's the only way I can figure out how to get around the resizing option, so that's gonna have to work for now. Back to the edit. Okay, so I've done the edit. I have put in audio. It's looking pretty good right now, but I have to shoot some B-roll. Now, the cool thing about having your PC as your phone is it's also your camera. Time to use those fantastic rear cameras. And the cool thing is, while it's connecting to DEX, I can literally go ahead and shoot the B-roll right now. And then when I'm done, it's all already on there. Instead of having to import it from a camera and then color grade and all that, it's right there. And because the camera on a smartphone doesn't just take pictures, it does a lot of post-processing as well. You automatically get that sort of HDR image if you want, and you automatically get a lot of things that you'd normally have to correct manually. So I find that it's actually fastening my process up quite a bit. Fastening, is that a word? Hastening, that's the word. My bad. Okay, just one issue. Yes, you can monitor your audio through your Bluetooth earbuds, but there's definitely a lag. For some reason, the Galaxy Buds 2 Pro, even though it's on AAC probably right now, is having some serious latency. So it's not great for video editing, but you do have the option of sending your audio out to other devices if you have them, maybe some other kind of low latency device. I'm not sure about this one, but that might be a little bit of a hitch. All right, we've got most of the B-roll in. Next, we get some frequency responses. There we go. I just need to screenshot that and download it, and it automatically downloads the file just like a desktop. That's awesome. Let's go add, and boom, just like that, all my B-roll is happening, and I'm not even using my PC. So, turns out I ask for far too much from my devices. Don't get me wrong, I got the video done, I got the editing, I published the video, I made the thumbnail. Everything went fine, and you can check out that video if you want in the description below, and that should have been it. I should be drawing up a conclusion, telling you what's good, what's bad, and finishing the video. But last night I had decided to push things one step further. I wanted to game on this, but I also wanted to live stream on it at the same time. And it turns out that might have been a little too much to ask for, because it looked something like this. Now the problem wasn't that the phone actually couldn't do it. It could game and it was live streaming, but I decided to use Streamlabs OBS, and it turns out there are a few issues with this. First of all, not all games will work with DEX. Apex Legends Mobile did not work with DEX. At least I couldn't get it to work with DEX. Whereas Call of Duty Mobile worked just fine. And I was able to use Call of Duty Mobile with my controller and live stream it. But then OBS gave me some issues as well. See, apparently if OBS is not the app that's in focus, which it won't be if you're actually playing a game, it actually restricts its bandwidth, which is very bad for streaming because everything becomes a blocky mess. I got much better results going live on the YouTube app itself, but then that app has its own limitations. So then I tried to maybe lower the load on the CPU by Steam linking, except then you're using more bandwidth, and then Streamlabs doesn't work well, and then your game doesn't work well. It's just not a great experience. In conclusion, my recommendation would be that if you want to live stream, you can do it off this phone just fine. You can do it in DeX right up to the point where you want to game and live stream together. Those results are mixed and perhaps requires a little more research. Okay, fine. So it's not the perfect desktop experience, but asking it to game and live stream was a bit of a stretch anyway. I just wanted to see what it could or could not do. Even so, there are some issues. Some apps won't scale to DeX very well, some games won't play very well, and to be honest, even multitasking as good as it was didn't always work the way you would think. Filmora, for example, while exporting the video, would pause the export every time I go away from the app and resume it when I got back to the app. So at least it would resume it, but that's not true multitasking. Even so, my experience with DeX was so good that the only learning curve I really had was in using Filmora itself. Anything to do with actual productivity, anything that I would do on my normal Windows desktop, I just did it the same way and it worked. And that kind of seamlessness, that is exactly what you need if you want your users to start doing something differently. It just has to work. And forget DeX for a second. Even just this increased real estate is not just a bigger screen. Samsung's clearly put in a lot of work into how you would actually use it. And if you want to use it differently, they've got tons of customizability. But the fact that you can split your windows, you can minimize or maximize windows on a phone, and you can even pop it out like so and move it around and use that window and resize it as you see fit. That kind of functionality I have never seen on a phone before. And to be honest, I have done more than what I have shown you today on this phone. For previous videos of mine, I've made thumbnails because the increased real estate allowed me to access certain websites in desktop mode. Canva, for example, that's what I use for my thumbnails. Not sponsored, but Canva, if you're watching, then I mean, I'm open to sponsors. If you're not from Canva, just subscribe. That's fine too. But my point is, the experience has been clearly well thought out from Samsung. No, it's not perfect, but this is as close to a desktop experience I've had on a phone, well, ever. And more importantly, it's close enough that I actually get a lot of work done right on this, and it does not feel like a compromise. The only thing that's left, honestly, is for the price to come down, and if you've known anything about tech, that is inevitable. But there's a lot more. There's some pretty cool things you can do, and there's some things that doesn't do quite well. But I'm gonna leave that for another video. Make sure you subscribe so I can catch you in that one. Stay happy, stay peaceful, stay colorful. Namaste.